Welcome to another episode of Axe of the Blood God and Independent RPG Podcast. I'm your host, Kat Bailey. Joining me, as always, my lovely co-host, Nadia Oxford.
Hello, Kat. Where the hell did May go? I was just looking at the date, and it's not where it should be, in my opinion.
I agree. Where's 2024 going? Straight to hell. That's what I say.
Well, that much is obvious.
That much is obvious. Also joining me, my equally lovely co-host, Eric Van Allen.
Yeah, screw 2024. This year sucks. Let's get out of it. This is bad. Let's bail. Can we skip it like school, Like, get out of here.
Let's bail, like when you get a bad dungeon in FF14. Ah, shit, Aurum Vale.
Oh, no. Such devastation.
This was never my intention.
Yeah, we need a soft reboot this year and try to get a different random number generator, because this one's not going well.
Yeah, this one sucks.
So far.
What a shitty Nuzlocke run.
But on that note, we do have a great episode to talk to you this week. It's been a while since we've done a mailbag. So we, as once again, put out the call to our lovely community and asked, can you send us some questions that we can talk about on the podcast as we head into Summer Game Fest and whatnot. And y'all obliged with some interesting questions, I have to say, and I'm really looking forward to talking about them. So please look forward to that. If you enjoy the show, well, hey, you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/bloodgodpod. By supporting us, you make all of this possible. You allow us to do this show, which is amazing. Also, if you give us just $1 a month, you get access to our Discord. And you get access to our ad-free feed over on the podcast of your choice. So, and of course, leave us a review wherever. We've got a lot of bonus content as well. You should go check out Charlian Dropouts, especially with the next Final Fantasy XIV expansion coming up really, really fast. And we have a Charlian Dropouts channel over on the Discord where you can discuss things. And hey, come hang out with our lovely crew ahead of RPG Limit Break 2024, which kicks off on May 19th. Friend of the show, Moonblaze Wolf, will be part of it. They'll be running Chained Echoes, a co-op with our partner. And there are a number of other excellent streams. Dragon Quest III, any percent with an English patch, R. Tonelico, Romancing Saga, Batten Kaitos, Reb, Eat Your Heart Out, Xenosaga, Victor, Eat Your Heart Out. Lots of great shows to go check out. So RPG Limit Break, go check it out.
Is that how you're supposed to pronounce the name of that game, R. Tonelico?
That's how I'm pronouncing it.
I've always said R. Tonelico.
Let's have a discussion about this, like Monk.
Okay, Monk I don't understand. Like, that one's straightforward to me.
Just to fill you in, Kat, there was a big discussion on Charlene Dropouts about the way I pronounce Monk. I was saying Monk, and they're like, no, it's Monk. It's like...
It's Monk.
Anyway, yeah, that was our topic. How Naughty pronounces Monk like an idiot.
What do you call the primate that eats bananas?
Monkey. Monkeys.
Yeah.
Monkey.
That's a 12 Monkeys reference.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, there's a lot of great options on here. Whoa, virtual highlight. There you go.
Ooh.
God. Why do you make yourself suffer, speedrunners? Like, I don't understand. Then again, I guess it's one of those games that's so crappy that you've like disassembled it. Polygon by Tortured Polygon. Or Quadron, whatever the hell the Saturn used.
Moonblaze Wolf informed me of the existence of a game called Small Saga, which is a turn-based RPG featuring little mice battling cats and whatnot. And it looks vaguely like Golden Sun, and I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah, that's what I needed for Golden Sun to be good. Rats.
The best indie RPG since Get in the Car, Loser. So
I love that title.
I know, great game. So go check it out, RPG Limit Break. Okay, it's letter time. We're doing another mailbag. And our first question is a little bit of a downer. I apologize. It's from JB. I'm asking a grim question because I'm in a grim mindset. JB, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that. When do you predict the end of the mainstream game industry? They said mainstream industry, and I'm like, you mean like the Industrial Revolution? What are we talking about? I think
Solar
they mean
flare
games
takes us all
industry.
Oh, like
It's over.
when will the games industry implode on itself?
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to die.
Will we even be talking about the newest blockbuster AAA holiday release come 2030?
I don't know. I've been playing video games since the crash, the first quote-unquote crash, and even that was not a crash. What we called a crash was mainly localized to North American consoles, whereas PC, arcade, stuff like that was still hanging on pretty well. And then, Nintendo rose like that, whereas Japan was a totally different scene, but to us, it seemed like Nintendo saved everything. And it was just so different, like in Japan and Europe and everywhere. People were always playing games, like no matter how good, no matter how shitty. And I think it's going to be the same here. I mean, indies just had a fantastic week. Like, we might get into that, but it's just like, there's still great games coming out, and everything sucks, but things got to burn down to build back up, unfortunately. And I try to hope for the best, but expect the worst, but at the same time, hope for the best.
Yeah, I have theories about where the industry will head and how it will change over the next 5 to 10 years, but I certainly don't think the industry is going to die. I do think that there are major facets of it that are going to shift. I think our reliance on consoles especially is probably going to change in the next decade. I think the idea of the console is quickly becoming less and less of a attractive solution for specifically companies to get their hardware. Because I mean, you think about the console, what the console is, here is a all-in-one PC that is going to have its own OS and play the games that you want to play, and you're going to do it through us. We get a cut of that. I think a lot of companies are catching on to the idea that if you have a storefront like Steam does, then you don't have to own the console and make the hardware, which often costs a lot of money and is getting more expensive as time goes on. You can just own the storefront and get that cut. I think that's going to start to change a little bit. Maybe not right now, maybe not even in 3 to 5 years, but in 10 years, I do think that's going to shift. I also think that the consoles themselves are changing. I think the Switch was just a massive, cannot understate how huge it was shift in the way we think about our gaming consoles and the way we play video games. It was the moment where handheld was suddenly maybe not on par with consoles, but it was something that was considered not just a novelty or something oh, this is my 3DS, I bring it with me to PAX and on planes and stuff. Now it's my Switch goes everywhere with me. My Switch is on my side, my big iron on my hip, that. It's always there.
The Nintendo Switch was the games industry's they've got phones in booths now moment.
Yeah,
I mean, the fact that suddenly dedicated handhelds not only came back but became fashionable is definitely the most unexpected event of the past 10 years. The fact that we have rumors out there that both Xbox and Sony are working on dedicated handhelds of their own, that's wild to me. I would never have predicted that 10 years ago. So
I can't see Sony and Microsoft going anywhere except the Switch route, given how slow this generation has been.
Another good comparison is the Steam Deck. I absolutely think that Microsoft is cooking a Steam Deck somewhere. I think it would be silly of them not to. So
Game Pass deck.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And then they'll hike the price of Game Pass again. But I don't think it changes. I don't think it goes away. I do think it changes. I think especially the highest crust of AAA gaming is going to get smaller because that is just a less tenable option for a lot of companies right now because it costs a lot of money to make a giant game. It is so expensive and takes such a long time to make. That's why I also think the consoles are kind of falling by the wayside, is the idea of hardware that you build for over years. We're already kind of at the point where console generations are shifting over before we can get a sequel to a game that just came out on that console generation. So I think as dev cycles change, the idea of a console shifts as well. But it takes a lot of work to make those games, and the profit margins are always just not great. We're seeing that response from Square Enix going we put out 2 huge Final Fantasies and both of them are below expectation and not what we were hoping for, and that's Final Fantasy. So I do think that shrinks. I think you get much more focus and more like, we are going to put out the winners. We're going to put out the hits. We're going to do that. And I'm hopeful that means there is more opportunity for things like Helldivers, because those games have really found new life. And like Nadia was saying, indies had a great week this week. Animal Well was like topping the Steam charts. Little Kitty Big City. There's one I'm suddenly blanking on that was also really, really well received. Lorelei was also well received. There was another one that was on top of the Steam charts too.
Did I get Little Kitty Big City?
Should you get it?
Yeah.
Would you like to be a little kitty in a big city?
You want to be a little kitty in a big city?
Well,
that's the way to go.
There you go.
That's good. All right.
Very cute.
Yeah, I've heard very good things about it.
I'll get that mouse game, and I'll get the Little Kitty in the Big City game, which is the sequel, I assume. So, I think the thing that we should remember is that the games industry, as it is right now, is bigger than movies and television and music by an order of magnitude.
Yeah.
And when a game hits big, it has a chance to truly enter the zeitgeist. It's actually quite remarkable. Think about 4 years ago, how pervasive Animal Crossing became, for example. And what we are seeing is maybe a huge correction, because a lot of the fundamentals of the games industry economics really don't work. And if anything, they're digging a little bit more of a hole over time with the way that they, for example, discount games into oblivion.
Yeah.
Xbox has really put itself into a big hole, arguably, with the way that Game Pass works, where Xbox owners and PC owners who have Game Pass have been trained not to buy games that aren't on Game Pass. So you get situations where you have games that are literally selling tens of units on that platform. That's a problem. So there are definitely problems, but the appetite for video games as an experience is really obvious. And one way or another, people are going to keep making them, and people are going to keep playing them. In the year 2024, in the 2020s, one of the prime social activities to do with your friends is to just hang out and play some video games. No matter what age, no matter what gender, like, that's a thing. So I'm just going to throw that out. Maybe reason to be optimistic. I remember when I started in the games industry, things were quite tough, and there was yet another like giant shift. We're undergoing that again. So
our third place is Fortnite.
Pomegranate fan wants to know, do you think Kiryu in the Yakuza franchise kills people? Eric?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, has he canonically killed people? I think he has. I want to say he has at least once. He tries not
killed
to.
People.
He tries not to, importantly. But I do think somewhere in that series he has killed somebody.
He had to have at least killed one person, right?
Yeah, there are some people he usually just beats the tar out of, but usually there is a villain that he ends up either inadvertently or mostly killing.
Like off camera, when he's shaking people down, like surely like he's getting attacked and he's having to kill someone, right?
Yeah. I think if we're talking like cutscene kills, that's like a little bit different, but like you literally get a gun in some of those like later stages of Yakuza, and you can just shoot people. So like it's kind of like,
so he shot a lot of people.
Yeah, it's like when Spider-Man like web blasts somebody like 1,500 feet across New York into the side of a building, and it just like slams them into the. You think that's not like breaking their neck?
Oh, they're dead.
Yeah, Peter Parker has bodies.
The better question is, and this has been like officially put out there, so to speak, because Kiryu had sex.
No, Kiryu is chaste.
Kiryu is a virgin.
They have attempted to incorporate some degree of like Kiryu be. Are we breaking the curse seal on this right now? Are we just opening this up?
Kiryu, no.
The seventh seal is melted.
This is for all ages, Eric.
Kiryu do be having tea parties behind the doors, all right, but
oh no,
but it's
yeah,
it's always like non-canonical. It's always like kind of this like side story, like all the weird FMV things that you can do. It's always like off to the side and kind of loosely.
Stuff.
Yeah, it's usually considered like loosely canonical, but not really part of the story. It's kind of like a what if thing.
What if?
He's having a great time at those karaoke bars.
He really is.
Yeah, why do you need sex when you have karaoke, I guess?
He is the king of karaoke in Kamurocho.
Very much so. It's like in the Yakuza, of all the Yakuza characters, is Kiryu definitely the best karaoke person out of all of them? Better than Ichiban or any of them?
I think in Infinite Wealth they say as much, because there's that whole part where you are hanging out with Kiryu and doing like his bucket list and stuff, and they explicitly say like he is the greatest karaoke person ever. Like no one can top him.
I mean, I agree. Like song, just an incredible voice.
The way he sings Baka Mitai, I'll never get over it.
Solarn wants to know, historically, the majority of games have a sub 25% completion rate by players, especially RPGs. What causes you to fall off a game, even if you may be enjoying it? Also, why do you think this project scope to player attrition ratio has not been addressed by major projects that are struggling to meet expectations, i.e. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? Solarn, I think that there is a huge amount of pressure on developers to deliver on some whatever like meets the price point, which means heaping in as much content, capital C content, as humanly possible, to the point that it starts to become exhausting. But if you're charging $70 for an 8-hour game, people are going to be like, this game's too short. So it's kind of like a problem, right?
Yeah, there's really no winning. What causes me to bounce from a game usually is I get distracted because of my job and
Squirrel.
Was that
Squirrel?
Squirrel. What causes? I think all of us
games.
can relate that. Like we have something else we need to play for work or whatever, and it's just there's also. It depends also on my access to the console. Like I find a Switch game, I'm much more likely to finish it because I can just pick up a Switch and play it on my own time. I don't have to share the TV or anything like that. So as for why it keeps happening, it's so strange. Everyone wants shorter things, but we want longer things too. We complain when we get shorter things. I don't know. It's just, if you're doing a quote-unquote AAA game, it's like you're expected to have that big open world. But what I am noticing is that worlds are shrinking down to more like hubs. Like Monster Hunter, Final Fantasy VII was definitely more hub-based. So there might take a little pressure off developers. I hope it does. But I did finish Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and just what kept me going was how great the characters and the story was. Like, that was all very much a lot of fun, and I just never felt like I was flagging. So, yeah, it all depends, I suppose. But distractions are a big enemy, especially when the games just don't stop. Like we were talking about last week, we got like 4 or 5 fantastic indies. Like, what the hell, man? What the hell?
I do think that there's something to be said for a game like Animal Well, where you can get through it in about like 5 hours, and then if you want a secret hunt after that, if you want to go looking for all that stuff, you can find it.
There's a lot of people do. They are compelled to find those eggs, as I understand.
Yeah, it's a good way to like start that attach rate off with like, here's roll credits, and now you can start looking for all the other stuff, and it's very community focused. But like, I do think that part of that question was, why are companies not addressing this? They are. I think it's noticeable, tangible, even in a lot of the endings of video games, that some of them kind of just don't feel as tight and well paced and like designed over the way that like the first 5 missions of a game always feel. I've had this discussion with friends where I'm like, I don't like finishing games because I feel like the end of games have trouble sticking the landing. There are a lot of games that I enjoy for like 2/3 of its runtime, and then the last third always ends up being the part that's like, okay, like we don't know what we're doing here. We don't know how to end this. It's a hard thing in writing, even like
it is very hard to end something in writing.
Yeah, figuring out how to write a conclusion in writing is its own art.
I remember my teacher telling me when I was in grade 3, stop saying it was all a dream. You're going to fail next time you do that.
Yeah. I think of games I even liked a lot, like Tales of Arise and stuff like that, where like that game needed to end and it would not end. It would not stop.
Kept going.
So I think there is maybe a reflection of those ideas in games that are released, that like a lot of the polish, a lot of the work seems to focus on the part that people are probably going to play. Also, the thing that's going to make the first impression, which is like very important for anything. You got to make a good first impression. You've got to impress the player within like X number of minutes after they've started the game. But I don't know. I also don't think that like I bounce off of games for a variety of reasons. You know, I have to go play something else for work. I'm not really feeling like playing this type of game today. I've got a bunch of stuff sitting in my Steam like library, and I have to like look at it, and it's been like a long day at work. I already sit here and look at a computer screen all day, so I'm like,
Yeah.
do I really want to just stare at a computer screen for another like 3 or 4 hours? And then like the Steam library just has all these games in it, and I'm thinking in my head like, okay, that's like a 30-hour game, so like maybe I could finish that by like 2 weeks from now, but like is that enough time to like do that? Or that's like a 5-hour game, I could do that this weekend, but this weekend I'm going shopping, I'm hanging out with some people, I don't know if I've really got time to play video games, and it all stacks up. So honestly, my bigger problem is that I buy games and I don't play them. They just sit there in my library.
We all have that backlog.
But I don't know. I see that as like I'm supporting the developers either way, so they get my money even if I don't boot their game up.
That's true.
So that's my
Somebody-
recommendation: irresponsible financial habits.
Somebody was asking how does our experience differ from the typical gaming experience? And y'all both kind of referenced having to bounce off a game for work or something like that. That happens to me kind of frequently, where I'll be really vibing with a game and really enjoying it, and then I have to set it down because something else has come out that's really big, and I need to play that instead. And I'm like, but I want to go back to this other thing, and then somehow I end up losing the thread and then feeling sad, and I have to really work to be able to go back to that particular game. There's also a lot more time pressure, I think, to get through a game so that you can discourse about it.
Yeah,
I still haven't finished Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and honestly, it's causing me a lot of stress in a way that it would not cause me stress in other circumstances, but other games keep pulling me away now. I kind of feel like I'm on a conveyor belt, like one of those airport conveyor belts where you're just going, and maybe you can like start to play a game, and it's like, oh no, I'm still going. Oh crap. Okay, I need to put this down. Okay, here comes another game. Right, so I'm stuck on an airport conveyor belt right now and playing Hades, I guess. But as for things that cause me to actively bounce off games, if I get to the feeling that I have discovered everything there is to discover in the game in terms of like the actual depth of the gameplay, that there aren't any more surprises, that I've kind of figured it out, there will be times where I bounce off it. If it's really kind of slow and kind of ponderous in the way that it handles its narrative cutscenes, and I have to just go through tons and tons and tons of story segments that are non-interactive, probably going to bounce off them, which is a problem with RPGs, I'm not going to lie, but I'm not here to read a book. I'm here to play a video game. What are you doing?
You can do both.
I really don't like tedious segments. I don't like grinding. If you force me to grind, probably I'll bounce off a game. My time is valuable, and I've kind of developed a muscle where I'll be like, okay, I feel good about my experience with this game, and I'm happy to move on, and then I will. In the meantime, I'm on my third solid run of Stardew Valley, so take that for what it is. I do return to games and have a genuinely great time with them. And my favorite thing with a video game is to be surprised. That's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah.
Is to come out going, this game's sick. I love this game. This year, it was Unicorn Overlord. That was like the game that I was not expecting to hit as hard as it did. And it managed to keep surprising me all the way through, and it never really got tedious. So fair play to Vanillaware on that one. That was a great time. Okay. Duck Meat, appropriately named Duck Meat, wants to know, if you could eat any food, drink, or consumable item from an RPG, which one would be the most appetizing to you?
Oh, there are so many, but for some reason lately, I guess because it's all the discourse about 13 Sentinels, I can't remember the name of the character who has those crepes, but they look really damn good.
That's real life food, though. What are you doing?
That's real
you
life
can
food,
eat
like
anything.
vanilla-
You're gonna eat a
vanilla-ware
food
crepes,
that already
so.
exists.
Oh, okay. So, I guess I'm always curious about like meat in walls. What does wall meat taste like? Is it pork? Is it chicken? Is it beef? The instruction booklet has never been able to decide on Castlevania.
What does
lore,
slowpoke tail taste like?
Yeah,
That's a good question. Is it supposed to be like sweet?
Yeah, apparently it's a delicacy.
I had to clarify in the Discord. I said, is it only stuff that you are supposed to eat within the games, like food or potions or stuff like that, or can it be like I can eat anything from the game? And Duck Meat did clarify it's open season. I want to eat a Dragon Quest slime. I want to know what they taste like.
Disgusting.
I want to know what they taste like. I want to know what they taste like. Blue
Tastes like
Powerade.
boogers.
No,
Powerade.
they could be like a gusher, like an unwrapped gusher.
It'd be disturbing to eat a living thing that tasted like a gusher.
What if it's like Jello, like blue Jello?
Exactly.
Boring.
Wait, could I put
Gonna kill a
fruit
slimy
in the
Jell-O.
slime to add a little bit of like a fruit cocktail mix to the slime before I eat it? Like just
Oh, it's
shove-
green now. Cool.
We're in the middle of like
God,
a
that's like
fight, and
some
I'm just like
50s stuff.
shoving fruit into the slime.
Make one of those like mold salads, like the pasta and tuna or something disgusting.
I
It's
would
a Jello
also,
salad.
I would also like to eat an aetherite from Final Fantasy 14.
We were going to have a podcast about the most delectable looking aetherites, and I said charlatans look like a cough drop, and I really wanted to lick it.
I really want to lick the aetherites. I would become what is it when you become primaled or whatever? You become
Tempered.
Yeah, I would become tempered because I would keep eating the crystals. Like I would get in trouble for eating the crystals like rock candy.
I just picturing Heidelin, my child. What have I done? What have I chosen you?
Those of you at home who have done your anime homework may know of Leos from Delicious in Dungeon, and he is my spirit animal because I too would like to just eat the monsters in the dungeon. I want to know if Chocobo tastes like chicken. All right, like I'm just saying.
Does. It's supposedly.
Also, they do canonically eat chocobos in Final Fantasy, so like,
Yes.
I don't know, like
I'd eat
some
that.
chocobo
I'd try
wings.
chocobo.
Yeah.
I'd eat chocobo, fry it up. There's a item descriptor in Final Fantasy 14 where it's just a fried chocobo leg that you're supposed to deliver to someone, and the descriptor just says, you're curious or something like that, or you wonder.
Yeah, I don't think I could eat anything that's too human-like. It's like a Moogle would probably be out because they're like bipedal. Like there's something about
They
that
talk.
that like, yeah, they
So
talk.
does slime.
It's an issue. Slimes don't talk, do they?
Yes, they do. Dragon Quest? Yeah.
I'll close my ears.
They never shut up.
It's the arms and legs thing that like weirds me out. If they can like walk like a person, that's going to be a problem for me. It's got to like clearly be a creature of some kind.
What would a tonberry taste like?
Oh, I might.
Oh, like
I
turtle
might-
soup.
I'd be like hunting the most dangerous game.
Yeah.
Then again, it had like a
getting
gun.
like a snake. Snake meat.
Tonberry versus gun. I think you're gonna win that one.
A gator
Unless the
tastes
Tonberry
like
learns how to use a gun.
snakes and gators kind of taste like meat, right? Or it tastes like chicken, right? I haven't
tried
had
any.
chicken in 20 years at this point, so I wouldn't know, but I can vaguely understand it. When I was living in Japan, Final Fantasy 12 had just come out, and the typical Square Enix marketing campaign was happening, and one of those things was the release of a special potion that they made in collaboration with Suntory.
Okay.
And it's described on the internet as an herb drink containing such ingredients as royal jelly, propolis extract, elderberry, chamomile, sage, thyme, hyssop, fennel, marjoram, rosemary, sweet basil, lemon balm, carbonated water, caffeine, and artificial coloring. The drink had a unique taste. It was very sweet, but at the same time possessed a bitter herbal aftertaste. When poured, the drink had a blue color. And over at oneup.com, numerous people were bringing back those potions from Japan and drinking them and going, this is disgusting.
I had a friend who had one of those. She said it was the worst thing she ever tasted.
I don't think
Yeah.
potions should taste good, though. I mean, medicine
No, it's
usually
medicine.
doesn't taste
It's a
good.
medicine.
Yeah.
I think they took the assignment a little too literally, though.
Love is like bad medicine. You know what it's like? It's like those. I'm actually looking at a box right now that I bought for my husband as a gag, like one of those like Jones sodas that have like Thanksgiving dinners in bottles. You have turkey flavored.
They're so bad. The,
I never drank them.
bacon
They're still
ranch
sitting there.
sodas and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty much what you're looking at.
Here's something I'm going to float out there. Being a vampire might rule because apparently every time you get turned into a vampire, it makes blood taste sweet or like wine. And so, like, I don't know if you've ever tasted. I mean, you've tasted blood before, right? Like, you've got a cut or something.
Yeah, it's like kind of irony, kind of
yeah,
gross.
yeah.
Salty, disgusting.
But if we can turn that into something sweet or something like a little cab salve coming out of the neck, I'm just saying, like, Asterion knows what's up. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've always thought being a vampire would kind of suck, literally, because the drinking blood all the time would be a little rough. It's a little bit like, yeah, it'd be a lot of fun being a cat until you have to actually groom yourself. I wouldn't want to actually do that. That'd be kind of awful, actually. So there's a big drawback.
Hold on.
To all of these things.
No, being a vampire would own. Are you kidding me? First of all,
I'd rather be a werewolf.
Never aging.
Yeah, I'm with Nadia on this one.
We're fine. Werewolf.
Werewolf. You don't even get to be a werewolf. Like, you get to be a werewolf like once a month. Like that's not fun. Like, you're not really a werewolf. You're just like somebody with a part-time job.
What if I gain control? What if I gain control of my powers, and then can turn into a werewolf anytime I want?
I guess. Okay.
Also, you're having a great time on the full moon. Just having a great time.
But
then, you're just like, going nuts.
What would you use the werewolf powers for? Just like running around and doing stuff?
I would meet my werewolf girlfriend.
Okay.
We would romp.
You would romp. Okay. See, whereas romping. I'm like, I would hang out
romping
with my vampire coven. We're getting into the depths of the mailbag already. Let's go. All right.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm glad that we've already reached the pit on this one. I don't know. Living forever is horrifying to me, and vampires always degrade over time. They either meet a really violent death, or they live for thousands of years and eventually turn into a Nosferatu monster person. And I'm like, neither of those are really that appealing to me.
I don't know. Have either of you read Preacher at all?
No.
Just Cassidy is a perfect example of how terrible it would be to be a vampire. He's a really, really fucked up character. And he's had some pretty horrific moments where, yes, he is technically immortal, but, like, for example, there's this one instance where he was in a pit and someone was just shooting him, like, piece by piece. And, like, he said, like, okay, I would have survived, but my mind would have been shattered if I hadn't been rescued. And he has, like, a really, really, really dark history. And he comes off at first as, like, the carefree, look at me, I'm a fun Irish vampire character. But his immortality has kind of warped him as to how to interact with other human beings who aren't immortal, who do get addicted to drugs. And you can't just go up to a human and say, hey, let's have fun, let's have drugs. Because you got to ruin them. So he's ruined a whole bunch of people.
Here's the thing, is you just get some pals and make them vampires too, and then you hang out.
A pal.
You hang out in a town. You keep it like incognito. You move around. I mean, you can build wealth pretty easily because you're operating on a different timetable. And then you just, I don't know, hang out in town for a little bit, find some ways to get your blood, and you just move around. And that's it. You're just like a wandering nomad of the night for hundreds of years. That sounds great to me. I love every part of that.
So what happens when the sun goes out?
When the sun goes out? I mean, when it like completely goes out, then you're golden. Yeah.
No. Then you're floating in space in a frozen rock.
Oh, so that is the one thing I remember a long time ago.
So what happens when all the humans go away?
Yeah, so a long time ago.
Because of climate change.
I say a long time ago. This was like 2019, 2020. We did a panel at PAX West where I interviewed Kara Ellison about what the plan was at the time for Vampire Bloodlines 2. It was a great panel. I don't even know if that audio transcript is up anywhere anymore. It was on US Gamer. I don't know if it made the jump over to VG 24/7 or not, but one of the interesting things that she talked about was the idea that vampires are the most concerned about climate change because it directly impacts their ability to feed and live, because they are going to experience the effects of climate change in ways that like humans right now may not. And I thought that was like really interesting and compelling. So that's why I find vampires neat and interesting, is because they have to deal with long-term problems that we don't, but or that we should care about, but we don't because we're stupid.
Yeah, how do we know that we're all dorks? We're all sitting around going, but how would vampires deal with climate change? That's a big question.
Do you want to get back to the werewolf romp? I mean, vampire romping has got its ups and downs too. I mean, come on.
Sure.
Like, every
Yeah.
vampire movie is about romping. Like, vampires
Truly.
love to romp.
Twilight is about the evils of romping before marriage.
I mean, have you watched Twilight? I mean, Jacob's having a great time, but Zelestium wants to know, I'm always interested in hearing about any indie RPGs you've been playing. Sell us on those sub 20-hour experiences. Well, I just learned of the existence of Small Saga, which I will be checking out, and that looks delightful. I don't know if I was saying it on the actual podcast or if I said it earlier. It looks like Golden Sun, but with mice. So I'm like, I'm in. Let's go. How about you, Nadia?
For short RPGs, I haven't been playing very much that's short that I can talk about.
Indie
There is-
RPGs.
Yeah, that's what I mean though, like indie RPGs. I'm blanking on some good ones that have released because I've been like playing like Nier and stuff like that recently, and a lot of FF14 because it's the Make It Rain campaign. You go first. Maybe I'll remember something.
I want to shout out. I still haven't started it because I'm bad, but I've been told it's very, very good. In Stars and Time is one that I know a lot of people really
That's
loved
one I want to
from
get back
last
to.
year.
I did start that. Yeah,
I've had that sitting on my Switch for a while.
Yeah, Reb loved that one,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems like a great art style. Got that little bit of a Earthbound kind of feel to it in the way that the actual battle system operates. And you're about to go fight a boss, but I guess you're in a stable time loop or something to that effect, and
Yeah.
things keep resetting. So
You're like
there's a lot
Groundhog.
that can happen.
It's like a Groundhog Day RPG where you're kind of trying to like solve problems that are leading up to this final battle. And I really like the idea of like you are at the final battle, but you keep like having issues come up. You keep having to like go back and solve the problems so you can advance forward. There was another game, another indie RPG that did something like that where you were at the final battle, but you were like reliving the party's adventure to that point. And I think like the things you did and the choices you made along the way end up shaping how like what you have in the final battle. And I think that's really interesting and a really compelling idea. So I wish I could remember the name of it, but it was
I
quite
did
good.
love Amori.
Last 5 minutes, I think it's something like that.
Yeah, the Amori was fantastic.
Amori was
it's
very good.
as indie as you can get. Definitely recommended.
I mean, this one's not exactly a hidden gem, but I'm very obsessed with Stardew Valley, as I already alluded to.
It's
you
hard to
may
go
have
wrong
heard
with
of it.
Stardew Valley.
Little game out there. It's not exactly short either, but I find it really delightful. Have either of you tried V Rising?
Oh,
Yeah,
Since we're
I've
talking
played-
about vampires.
I've played some of it. I think it's interesting. It's like a survival game. It plays a lot like a Rust or something like that, but with like action RPG like elements and stuff. I find it interesting. I don't know that I really like it. I just think it's like a neat idea, and it has a lot of appeal because you can make servers and do a lot of like the Rust stuff that people like to do. I have another one that I'm going to talk about in the Tavern that I've been playing called Dread Delusion, but I'll save that for the Tavern segment.
What is the name? I can't find it for some reason. What is the name of the game where it's a party of 4 and it's a family and they're adventuring?
Mother 3.
And it's sort of it's sort of a not top down, maybe top down or
Children of
isometric.
Morta.
Children of Morta. Thank you, Eric. I've been like looking everywhere. I want to play that one. That looks fun because
that
I've been
new?
looking for. It's not. It's a few years old at this point, but I've been wanting to play a good co-op run of that one because I've been looking everywhere for. So I'm playing Stardew Valley co-op, but I'm also looking for another co-op game. I literally downloaded Resident Evil 5 to play co-op, but if y'all have any good suggestions, ideally kind of cozy, ideally pixel based, ideally maybe a little more indie. I don't really want to play a shooter.
Have you played
That kind of
Haven?
thing.
Resident Evil 5 is cozy.
You should try.
Yeah, very cozy.
You should try Haven.
What is Haven?
It's made by the same team that made that boss rush game Fury, but it's basically an RPG about a couple that runs away from their society because it doesn't want them to get married, and so they like elope essentially, and it's about them trying to survive in the wilderness of space as an eloping couple. But you literally play as like, you can play it solo or you can play co-op where each person plays one of the characters. And there's cool battle system stuff they do with that, but it's also just like a really, really nice story. It's a cool thing to have like a couple as the focal point, and you get a lot of like good moments of them doing couple stuff and being together and all that you normally don't see in RPGs and video games. So I really, really like it for that. So that's maybe would be fun. It's also like relatively short. It's like a 16-hour game is what I've heard, 16 to 20. So
Okay. Well, I'll check it out. I remember when it came out, and I think Katie was probably talking it up because she was talking up all of the cool games. But friend of the podcast, Len wants to know, what do you think it is that causes Japanese RPGs to break through in the West? On the one hand, you have Final Fantasy, which has had a huge Western following for decades. Then you could look at someone like Persona, which was super cult / niche 10 years ago, but has become fairly canonical in the English-speaking world since P5. Then on the other end of the spectrum, you have something like Sakura Wars that I had literally never heard of in my life until Axe of the Blood God talked about it. Is it all marketing, quality of localization, something else? I think that a lot of people, in some ways, it's people being thirsty online, which then they like get drawn into the quality of the actual game. I think Nier Automata and Persona 5 both have those sort of elements to them. If they have romance in them, so much the better. Anything that's kind of, feeds into more recent anime trends, I think has a chance to be relatively successful. But it's also hard to sort of break through right now with a franchise that people, or a title that people don't really know about. Other games that y'all can think of?
I think if I had to identify a silver bullet, it would be just, this is going to sound really stupid, but uniqueness, like the ability to look unlike other things and play unlike other things. And you look at something like Infinite Wealth, that was like the best I think Yakuza has performed in the West so far. Obviously it's based on Dragon Quest, it's set in the real world, but it's goofy, it's fun, the characters are really you engage with them better. Like they're compelling, they're understandable, you like Ichiban, you like a lot of those characters. And I think that can push a game over, is just having that like killer thing of like, oh, Ichiban doing crazy stuff, you do all these jobs and all, you know, look at the battle system, it gets wacky, there's all these sub stories where you have like the lesbian crawfish and all that, like it's great, it's excellent. Or you go the P5 route where like stylistically, visually, P5 does not look like anything else. Other games now want to look like P5 because of how amazing that style was. Even compared to previous Personas, I would say P5 looks very different. And P3 Reload even feels like it's playing off that. It's taking the original look of Persona 3, but like stylizing it a little bit more, adding a little bit more flair and stuff to it that people now expect from P5. And sometimes you just need that silver bullet of like, this is unlike other things that I've played. And I think that applies to Western games too, but I do think there is a hurdle you have to overcome. Because Kat, you mentioned like whatever the anime trend is nowadays, but we don't see like games about popular anime like taking off. Like we don't see everybody playing the latest like how to pick up a girl in a dungeon or whatever game. Like those stay within their pocketed communities of anime. Even as anime itself gets larger and larger, One Piece Warriors is not like taking over the gaming industry. You need something that's gonna like take you over the top and make you interesting and stand out in a sea of video games. So sometimes it's just appealing to our inner selves, our inner children, because like Dragon Ball FighterZ was purely based on nostalgia. Like it's an excellent fighting game, a really, really good fighting game, but it also just literally looks like you're playing a Dragon Ball game at all times and makes you feel like you are piloting Goku or Vegeta or Krillin and really, really enjoy it. So yeah, I do think it needs that. It needs something that is going to make you go like, I can't get this from other video games. I have to get this here. And maybe that is waifus. You know, Genshin Impact is big for a reason. So
I think memeability helps a lot.
Yeah, that was one of my answers, really. I hate to say it like this, but the stereotype is that the West kind of really likes big noises and shiny things compared to, Japan, which tends to be a little bit quieter. I feel like Final Fantasy VII really broke out because if you notice the commercials did not show any gameplay. It was all the cinemas. They did the same with Final Fantasy VIII as well. And with P5, yeah, you had that like really unique style that was really being memed a lot. This was like the height of social media. And I remember the thing I remember most is people making memes out of "You never see it coming," and there was like one with Mo says, "Say someone's like dissing your fly girl, just give him one of these. You never see it coming."
Pull the gun out.
You had a lot of that going on, and I thought like, okay, this game looks really cool, and I'm sure I wasn't the only one. And I think at the time that we had Nier and Persona 5, we were ready for crazy ass anime stuff again. Like we were pretty starved for that by that point, and everyone just decided, hey, anime is cool again at the same time. And that was Persona 5, which made it look really damn cool, and Nier, which made it look really damn weird, but in a great way. It was a combination of things, I think.
Do we consider Nier to be like really quote unquote anime in style? Like it's got ideas, it's got aesthetics, but it's also
I think it's pretty anime.
It's also like pretty about, when I think anime, I think like Fire Emblem. I think Danganronpa. Like characters that literally look like they popped out of a manga panel. And like 2B has aesthetics that are certainly anime inspired, but it still takes place within a world that looks almost Western in the way it's like realistic. It's very like buildings and forests and sorts of grays and greens that would fit in like a 360 world. So like I don't know, I think there is a difference there, and again it goes back to novelty. It goes back to playing something that is just different from the fold. I don't know what else I would really say is like what makes Japanese games pop off here in the West, because it is a crapshoot sometimes.
Yeah, it is,
just like with every game.
We could get to the fall and all of a sudden like people are like, I love Ys 10 Nordics, because we're all like really into Vikings all of a sudden and whatever. Like that.
What's incredible to me is that we live in 2024 and I still see fairly major figures in the games industry go, I would never play this weird Japanese game normally, but wow, it really won me over. And I'm like, what year is this that we're like talking about this? But video games are a very large tent, and people are on another side of the tent, and maybe sometimes they come over to our side of the tent and things like that. But Shareable Texas wants to know, I don't think Azure Dreams or Jade Cocoon has ever come up on the pod before. If someone has experience with them, can they give a shout out? Nadia, do you have experience with Azure Dreams or Jade Cocoon?
I do not.
Neither do I.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I just don't.
I looked at both of them.
Thinking of.
I looked at both of them, and of the two that I would play, I think I would definitely play Azure Dreams, because I was definitely aware of them when they came out. I remember them being sort of lightly regarded in terms of reviews and things like that, but that doesn't always mean anything. But Azure Dreams consistently comes up as one of the underrated RPGs of the PS1 era. It also came out on the Game Boy Color, and it's described as a roguelike RPG with town building elements and dating sim elements. There's a lot going on in this game, and I looked at both of them. Actually, the Game Boy Color one looks kind of sick.
That's pretty interesting, because Game Boy Color games were an interesting animal.
Very different in some ways from the PS1 game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the PS1 had a ton of amazing RPGs, and so there are a lot of amazing sort of second, third tier RPGs that maybe a lot of people have not discovered. As for Jade Cocoon, it's more of a monster taming game, I suppose. And I don't know as much about that one, but Monster Seed. Of the two, I would probably pick Azure Dreams, but shout out to those two games. Maybe at some point we'll look at them. And canonically, I think this might be the first time they got mentioned on this podcast. So there you go.
People are excited about it in the chat, so it's certainly something I think I should probably.
There you go.
Look at.
I thought I had played Azure Dreams, but I was thinking of Thousand Arms. That was the one I was thinking of. The other dating sim PS1 RPG. Yeah.
Flu wants to know, is the best RPG soundtrack segment still happening this year? And I say to you, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, we had plans, didn't we?
We wanted to do, it would be fun to do a special, I think,
I'd love
around it. Yeah.
I mean, now that we've done the Nier soundtrack, or the
fun.
Nier Pantheon.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. And 13
What is
Sentinels.
the single best RPG soundtrack, just off the top of your head?
Chrono Trigger.
Oh, come on. You can't ask. Yeah, Chrono Trigger's up there for sure. One of Mitsuda's best.
We're going to record the special, but I don't think y'all understand how, like, full in I am now on Chrono Trigger just being a treasure, just being a beautiful, perfect game. I have fallen in love with that game. I think about it more often than I care to admit.
I remember when I got
Fantasy
the game.
6.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VI is a big one.
Chrono Cross. Mitsuda would tell you that he liked his Chrono Cross soundtrack better.
Can I say FF14? Am I allowed to say FF14? Because I'm not even counting the remixes. Like, the original music for 14 is incredible. It's very, very good.
FF7 remake, FF7 Rebirth soundtrack is just off the chain.
Ooh, Octopath 2 has such a good soundtrack.
Octopath 2 is amazing.
Oh, man. When the sax kicks in on Partitio's theme,
We mentioned a lot of Japanese games, but Baldur's Gate 3 is up there for me.
Yes. Yeah.
Just Raphael's boss music in that game. Awesome. So good.
I always loved Skyrim's soundtrack. To this day, when I hear it, it just takes me somewhere.
It is striking, right?
Very striking.
Yes. So there you go. That's our RPG soundtrack special right there.
Done.
Nah, we got to do a real one, man.
Music.
Stay tuned for the Stars of Destiny post show where
It would be
Eric
fun
will
to
sing
do a
songs.
countdown.
It would.
Yeah.
Can we
get someone who's like genuinely a music expert on here?
Victor is pretty good at music.
Can we do a countdown?
Can we get Lena Rain on here?
We treat it like America's Top 20, like the old pop music countdowns where we're like, coming up at number 19, it's Baldur's Gate 3.
Let's see. I'm almost more interested in individual tracks than I am about the entire works, because obviously Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI is up there, but stuff like Chrono Crosses. Some of the Chrono Cross tracks are absolutely up there in the top 20 of all time, for example.
The Xenosaga episode, Xenosaga Episode 1 battle music is some of the best battle music I've ever heard in my life. It is incredible. A friend of mine was recently got like some new setup for retro stuff and was playing Xenosaga Episode 1 on it, and I was just sitting there like, oh, this game is so good. Oh, we might have to Pantheon that game one day. Xenosaga.
Oh, I think it's a given that we'll have to do it. We'll do it alongside Azure Dreams and Jade Cocoon.
There we go. We need one more game for this episode. We've got a full Pantheon to vote on.
Victor Hunter wants to know, hi, longtime listener. My mailbag question is, why is it not a Tokimeki Memorial 30th Anniversary special? I merely request that it makes it into random encounters. So Tokimeki Memorial turns 30 on May 27th, 1994. Wow. Where it came out that on the PC Engine on May 27th, 1994. And, well, maybe we'll do a Pantheon on that. There you go. The mailbag episode Pantheon, Xenosaga, Jade Cocoon, Azure Dreams, and Tokimeki Memorial.
Making a lot of crazy promises here.
Yes. Well, you know, we're all about crazy promises here on the Axe of the Blood God. But,
We are.
You can get an English patched version of the Super Famicom version that came out in 1996.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, I
In
have it on my
fact,
Steam Deck.
We might there might be a segment in the upcoming charity stream where we play that game. Who's to say?
Really?
Is the Super Famicom version much different from the PC Engine version?
Yeah, there's not a ton of voice acting. There's some, but not a lot of it. And also, you kind of miss out on some of the nicer quality stuff. It just doesn't look as nice as like the PS1 version or the Saturn.
I think the PS1
one
version is maybe a lot of people would say is the best one, but
yeah, I feel like Tim Rogers would know, but
Tim Rogers would know. Doran wants to know, finally, what recent PS5, Xbox, PC RPGs would you like to see ported to the Switch 2 for the launch window? Or what potential RPGs on Switch 2 would you be excited about? Well, I would be excited about a new game, something like a new Fire Emblem or something like that. It'd be a lot of fun. A new Paper Mario, or heck, I'll just throw a bone out there for Reb. How about a new Golden Sun?
Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
And Victor.
Thinking of ports, I think a lot of people would probably want to be able to play the FF7 games on Switch 2, the remakes.
Like Rebirth and Remake.
Yeah, I think those
makes a lot of sense,
make
doesn't
sense. It? Yeah. I think one, let me throw a wild one out there. I think it's time for a Lost Odyssey remaster for modern systems. Because right now you can really only play it on the Series X and the Series S. And I think it's time that makes it to more people. So that's my toss out.
What about the Yakuza games? Like the Like a Dragon games?
Yeah.
Because they haven't really been able to be on the Switch, even games like Yakuza 0. So this would be sort of a good opportunity to port them over, get like Infinite Wealth on there, Yakuza 0, that sort of thing.
I would love to see... Sorry, go ahead, Kat.
No, you go.
I would love to see Falcom just go nuts and put like everything on the Switch 2. All of the Trails games, Ease 10, Ease 9, Ease 8, just whatever they got, put it on there. I'll play it all.
The fact that
what about Elden Ring?
Oh,
Elden Ring would be good.
It works on the Steam Deck
with the DLC.
Like, yeah,
that'd be a good sale.
Especially if you could get it to 60 FPS docked. Yeah. That'd be pretty cool, right?
It'd be interesting. For
I think.
Sure.
I mean, you can already play it on Steam Deck, but a lot of people don't own Steam Deck. That's a pretty premium platform. So I think that Switch 2, being able to play Elden Ring portably would be like a really good sell, honestly.
Baldur's Gate 3, yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'd love to play that on the Switch 2.
I think that one's a given, honestly. I think that Baldur's Gate 3 will be on the Switch 2.
I disagree. I'm going to take you on that bet.
Okay. It's a bet.
I'll buy you dinner if loser buys the dinner. Yeah. But like, I think because of the whole situation with Larian and Hasbro, I don't know if they're going to go back to the well there, and they would have to get somebody to port it. So I think
Hasbro does have crap brains lately.
It could happen, but I think it is not as likely, so I will take you on that bet.
What's the statute? When do we agree that one of us has won the bet? Because it's not a given that, say, Baldur's Gate 3 will be announced at launch.
Let's say a year from today.
A year from today?
Will the Switch be out a year from today?
How about
the
2
Switch
years
2?
from today?
2 years from today?
Yeah.
Chronicles.
You think, okay, so you're saying
around 2
it
years
needs
from
to be a
today.
launch game.
I don't think
It needs
2
to be a
years in the
launch game.
future. I mean, launch window, at least
How about
announced.
end of 2025?
Okay.
If we still haven't heard about Baldur's Gate 3 on the Nintendo Switch 2, I owe you dinner, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Though if it does come out on the Switch 2, eventually, you'll have to buy me dinner. So
I'll attend, but all I'll do is
I'll buy you 2 dinners.
Somebody do.
Yeah.
Axe of the Blood God listeners, remind us on December 31st, 2025, if we're all still alive.
As I'm like curled up with like my bottle caps and a rifle, I'm like half ghoul. And I'm like,
hey,
Baldur's Gate never
3
came out,
on
cat.
Switch 2.
You owe me a rat.
Oh man. I want to see the next Pokemon game on Switch
Yes,
2. I hope it's actually good.
Yeah.
I
The
think it will
Switch was
be.
just a shit show from a technical standpoint for Pokemon. So, give me a good Pokemon game for the love of God. Jeez.
Wow, that's not for much here.
Legends Z. Legends Z.
You know what'd be sick?
That's
If-
pizza.
Game Freak just went back to the old 2D style for like one generation. Just roll it back, get all the Pokemon in there, and people would go crazy, right?
Yeah,
I know-
People
and
go
then
crazy.
Style in black and white.
I know I
Those really
dumped
nice
on
animated sprites.
HD 2D recently, but like, yeah, I do kind of want to see them go back to some sprite work for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's just a throwback, I miss it.
Nostalgia's big. Oh yeah, a new Pokemon Legends game would be pretty awesome on Switch too. They got the next one coming out at some point that they've already confirmed to be working on. And then Xenoblade Chronicles.
A new Xeno something. I don't know if it'll be Xenoblade
Yeah, I think Xenoblade
Chronicles.
Chronicles is wrapped
I think
up.
they're moving on from Xenoblade at this point. It'll probably be Xeno something, but
Oh,
Xeno Axe.
you know how all this stuff goes. They could always do another one.
yeah, but I mean, like, it'll be Xeno blank. It won't be Xenoblade. I think they have like moved on from that section of the Xeno.
Yeah,
Even Saga
yeah,
is
they
like
have.
its own thing. A Xeno
Little
arc.
Xenoblank.
Yeah.
Mass
The
Effect
Xeno
Legendary
piece.
Edition on Switch 2 would be actually pretty sick.
Mass Effect Legendary Edition should just be on the Switch. That and Kingdom
You think
Hearts
that
were
it
two
could run well on Switch? I don't think it would.
I think it could run fine on Switch. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but like I look at that and then I look at like Kingdom Hearts and I'm like, why are those like Kingdom Hearts is only on there through the cloud? Like really you couldn't get
Yeah, that's hilarious.
I understand Kingdom Hearts 3, but like nobody wants to play Kingdom Hearts 3. If you want to play Kingdom Hearts 3, you're just being bad to yourself. You should treat yourself better.
Boy, we really
love
hate it.
yourself more. I dislike Kingdom Hearts
have
3
no
a
comment.
great deal. But
Why?
Kate Okay. So Kingdom Hearts 3
Oh,
is a bad video
gosh.
game top to bottom.
Here we go. Here we go.
The action is not good. They added those weird park rides. They're just like mash the button because that's the favorite thing that everybody loves to do is like play a mini game and not do the fun action combat that Kingdom Hearts got known for. The story's terrible because they're like, oh, Kairi, we might let Kairi do something. Oh, the whole story she's gonna do. Oh no, she's been kidnapped.
Kairi
and Sora's
got
gonna rescue
Norded.
her. Yeah.
I got Norded. Are you speaking English?
The one positive upside of this is that the 358 over 2 days crew gets like a pretty good moment together. Shion gets to come back. I do love that. But like I think the main core cast, it was just very apparent that they never had any idea what they wanted to do with Sora and Riku and all the like the key. They have to become the Keyblade masters and they have to learn the different magics and they have to go into purgatory and talk to the weird god that's there. And then like Sora summons everybody from the mobile game to help him out. And like
It's the
It's-
weird god Mickey.
no, I wish it was Mickey. That would be so much better. I wish it was like
Mickey.
Steamboat Willie. That would have been fun. But like, honestly, that series kind of loses the plot by like Kingdom Hearts 3 because even in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, you have like great Disney crossovers and great
Yeah.
Square Enix crossovers, like great Final Fantasy stuff. And it all kind of melds together with an original story and it feels like it's all working in unison. But by Kingdom Hearts 3, they were so deep into what is the deep lore of Kingdom Hearts. And some of that stuff gets interesting, but I think it's more interesting when you're talking about the characters and not just like, oh, this is actually a secret magic from the old age, and this ties to that, and this ties to that. It's the wickification of media that I hate. Whereas, like, I'm a sicko who loves 358 over 2 days because it's just about pals hanging out and about what it feels when you know you're in like the golden age of your summer and it's going to end eventually and you're never going to get these days back. And that like hits me in the heart a little bit because it's good character writing. And instead, they're just like, we want to talk about how many different Ansems and Xehanorts and Xemnases there are and how Sora and Riku need all this magic to fight them. And honestly, the best part of Kingdom Hearts 3 is when Woody does that whole like stops Sora is like,
Shut up. Yeah.
yeah. It's so like the Toy Story stuff was very fun. But even then, like Toy Story 3 had great worlds with Toy Story 3.
Yeah.
Kingdom Hearts 3 had great worlds with Toy Story and other ones, but then some of those worlds were just like, let's do the plot of Frozen, let's do the plot of Tangled, like we're just going to reenact those movies and play scenes from those movies with like Sora and crew in the background. I like Kingdom Hearts when it's like building up upon the things that they're doing. Like the Mulan stuff is really fun. I think the Nightmare Before Christmas stuff is really fun. They just lost the thread, and Kingdom Hearts 3 is not a fun iteration of that series. I think Kingdom Hearts 2, Birth by Sleep, 358, any of those games you're going to get more out of and enjoy what the actual like concept was behind Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, Art Raider in the chat. Disney was strict for Frozen for everything, as I understand. Kat, didn't you like interview someone from Square about like what was different this time around working on Kingdom Hearts? And they're just like, Disney's really breathing up our ass for this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I interviewed Nomura.
Was he cool?
About
I'd like to meet him someday.
He looked sleepy.
It's like Mo wanting to meet Tipsy. Mo wanting to meet Tipsy McStagger. He's here.
Yeah, no, he was pretty frank about the restrictions that he was kind of facing when it came to working with Disney, and it was easier when he could work with older franchises that obviously like the creators have like long since moved on and that kind of thing, versus Pixar where they're all like not only there but still extremely invested in making sure that everything is right. Yeah. I think I remember him saying that Monsters Inc. was like one of the absolute toughest that he had to deal with in terms of designs for the characters. But then I'm sure that with Frozen, we all kind of goof on having to watch the entirety of Let It Go, but I don't think they were going to do the excerpt, right? Like, I think that was, like, a thing that Square Enix was just out of their hands. So that's the problem with licensing and whatnot.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I understand that.
Anyways.
Let it go.
358 over 2 days is a better game than you remember. 358 over 2 days is a better game than most people remember, and they should like that game more. It gets dumped on routinely. It's a fun game. I like it.
And that's it for this week's mailbag. Thank you so much to everybody for submitting. We do these periodically over on the Discord, so if you want to contribute, head on over. You can access it for just $1 a month. Okay, that's it. Let's time for a series of random encounters. Sony has 2 new CEOs, co-bosses as it were. Herman Hulst and Hideaki Nishino are the new CEOs of PlayStation. So congratulations to them. It'll be interesting to see where they take it from here. They take over for Jim Ryan, who is outgoing. Half of all PlayStation gamers are yet to upgrade to PS5 based on new Sony earnings. It looks like PlayStation 5 sales are also starting to slow down at this point, though they have still shipped considerably more than the Xbox Series X. Atlas is ending distribution of the original SMT5 and its DLC ahead of the release of Vengeance. So if you want to get the original, I guess go get it. But Vengeance is coming out, so maybe that's the one to get ultimately. It's the royal version, the fully expanded version.
I might actually get that because I loved it on the Switch, but I would love to see it like at full performance on like the PS5.
Yeah, I'm getting it for sure. I want to play it at 60 FPS for sure. Monkey Island creator Ron Gilbert is working on a 2D pixel art game he calls a mix between Zelda, Diablo, and Thimbleweed Park. And honestly, I'm like into it. I really want to play this game. Hades 2 has had a new update, and it should be in early access at least through this year, which is not surprising to anybody, but glad we could get clarification on that. The Nier devs are also working on a new project. But is it Nier? Is it not Nier? Whom can say? I guess we'll find out at some point. Fallout 4's latest graphical update is here, and surprise, surprise, the mods are broken again, and it is still a little bit busted. And finally, the Monster Hunter series has surpassed 100 million units sold, with Monster Hunter Rise reaching 15 million units. There was also some bad news out of Square Enix. in which we learned that they were aggressively pursuing a multi-platform strategy after the underperforming of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Final Fantasy XVI. They also confirmed layoffs in the US and UK. Nadia and Eric, I put it to you, should Square Enix be pursuing a multi-platform strategy?
Yes.
Probably. It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. I feel like if Final Fantasy VII Rebirth had been on PC, it probably would have sold considerably better.
I think the sales that they can get from a Steam Day 1 launch versus even just like a year later Steam launch is like, I think it would help a lot. Like you just mentioned earlier that the PS5 upgrade rate is not very great right now, and then you put 2 Final Fantasies only on the PS5, and I think 16 has not yet made it over to the PC. Is going to the PC at some point, but still has not made it to the PC. I imagine Rebirth is probably the same way, where it's going to eventually end up on PC, but they just haven't done it yet. And I think you lose a lot of the potential sales if you wait that long and people don't feel that sense of like, oh, I gotta play it. It's like what everyone's talking about right now. Whereas a year later, like maybe you get it on a Steam sale if you feel like it, if you want to hop into it. I don't know, but I think some of they're probably looking at the numbers of how certain games like Octopath Traveler 2 sold on platforms where it launched day 1 versus, Dragon Quest Builders 1 getting kicked onto Steam after years and years. And they're going like, well, we should probably get on that. That seems like it's so worth doing. Better. Yeah.
Indeed. I think that they should put their games on as many platforms as they can, such as Switch 2. And I think that for a lot of games, honestly, I'm a little over exclusives at this point. Sure. I think that there's a growing movement toward people just wanting games to be on everything, anything and everything, because convenience and accessibility is sort of the watchword for games these days. So it's just, Square, they marketed the heck out of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and it's still kind of underperformed. I mean, it was like in so many PlayStation showcases. It was multiple preview events, lots of media coverage, and yet, there are a lot of people who are like, I don't get this game.
It's as you said, like a lot of people have not upgraded to the PS5, and so I could see like, well, let's say, oh, I would like to play this game, and then it's like, oh, what's it on? PS5? Well, I don't have that. It's on PC? No. Well, then screw it. That's no wonder they lost money on that.
Indeed. All right. We're rolling into the tavern. We're settling down next to the fire. We're talking about what we've been playing and what's been going on. Nadia, I don't even know what's going on with your entry. So why don't you tell me what you mean by sneeze on me, Daddy Typhon?
Huh?
Eric, you don't get that? Come on.
Oh,
I've been playing.
Is this an FF14 reference?
Yeah, it's 14.
Basically, FF14 is going through this. Whenever FF14 does an expansion for like a month or two beforehand, they do like this really fun thing where it's called the Make It Rain campaign, where you go through the gold saucer and you get like 50% bonus on everything that you win. So I've just been racking up the money because I really want that Nearpod. And I thought it was 20,000. Sorry, I thought it was 200,000. Then I go with my money up to the counter, like, oh, it's 300,000, you dickhead. So I've just kind of been like racing my chocobos, and there sure are a lot of newbie jabronis who are trying to race me with their piece of shit chocobos that are like raised on crappy feed, and I'm over here with my 4th generation chocobo. Well, he sucks too. But anyway, so there's in the gold saucer in FF14, there's like a lot of games that you can do for gold saucer points, which can be exchanged. And some of those are like, for example, the slices right, where Yojimbo slices bamboo and where it falls you have to avoid, and it's a lot of fun because everyone plays it all at once and just kind of swears and says things. And there's also a game where Typhon, aka Shupon from Final Fantasy VI, he will sneeze you out of the arena, and if you can survive long enough to keep him from sneezing you out, you can win a lot of money. So I should be saying don't sneeze on me, Daddy Typhon, because I don't want to be sneezed on. I want that bag. But I don't know. Some people have a fetish, not me, but
Other people.
I don't know.
To be clear,
Other
not
people.
me. I don't
I remember
understand
the first
this.
time I read about that even existing, I'm like, wow, people are mad, aren't they? There's kind of, I accept that.
Next thing they'll want to be
Amazing.
romping in the woods with werewolves.
Yeah, what the hell's wrong
Other
with people?
So last week I was talking about Hades 2 and how I was like not sure if I was feeling it. Since then I've played considerably more Hades 2. I'm in the third area. It's pretty hard, actually. I had a really good run going where I had the axe, and the axe was freezing people, and it was also more powerful, and I had a really good cast that was burning enemies, and I was doing a lot of damage, but I think I kind of went a little bit too hard in trying to upgrade the cast on one of the gates. And so I ended up dying sooner than I wanted to. I think I died against the sirens, who I find rather a little bit tricky. There's a lot that I like about this game, specifically when it comes to the gameplay. I think it's kind of a little bit less easy to cheese than it was in the original Hades, where you could just output so much damage, and dashing around felt kind of really broken because you basically got as many iframes as you wanted. But so that's cool. I think the builds are more interesting and things like that. And I like the sirens better than I liked the lava worm guy, which was never like a very fun boss to actually fight.
I love Lerny. He's
that jerk.
fun. Yeah.
Dick.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of him.
Aw.
I like I forget what her name is, but the first boss in Hades that Zagreus always flirts with before
Meg.
like actually fighting her.
Megara?
Yeah.
Yeah. I find like having to fight Hecate or whatever her name is first less interesting ultimately, and honestly most of the bonus side characters that you end up meeting in the various rooms, like the spider and such, are just less interesting than you would find in Hades. And I have no opinion on Chronos, but at the same time, it's a gorgeous game and very compulsive to play, and I'm really enjoying my time with it. So,
How much do you know about where else you can go in this game? Let me put it that way. Do you know about the other route?
I went up to the surface and died immediately.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, dang. What, poison air?
I think some of
I'm cursed. Can't go up there.
Oh.
Yeah, I think some of the surface route stuff is honestly where I find the side characters and stuff that I personally enjoy, because they deal more with like characters that aren't gods. I feel like when you go down into the underworld, you're either dealing with kind of past characters, if that makes sense, like Narcissus is down there and all that sort of thing, but like I like a lot of the above ground characters. Hercules is a great one. They have Medea, which I think is like a great pull. Really, really fun concept. So like there's some other ones that I won't spoil that I only recently unlocked and have really enjoyed. But yeah, I don't know. Hades 2 is a slower burn for me, but I do think it's ultimately getting there.
It's also early access. Like this could all be flipped upside down.
I also think the social stuff is really, really good. The Nemesis like line especially is really great. I love some of the other characters that start showing up at the crossroads that you can hang out with. You can vibe in the hot springs with them. This game is incredibly thirsty in ways that the first Hades did not have. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think there's a lot more to find. It's just when I got to the third area, by the way, the mobs of enemies are really hard to manage at certain points, and it can really run you down if you don't have a particularly good build.
Yeah, it feels like a build check in that area, and also
it gets kind of exhausting, actually. So, how about you, Eric?
I've got 2 games I've been playing, 2 indies. I'll talk about the RPG one first, and that is Dread Delusion, which is what if we just made Morrowind again?
Oh boy.
It is...
Cool.
You start out and you kind of do, you're in a jail cell, very Elder Scrolls, and you do your like origin, who were you, how did you grow up, how did you get caught by the Inquisition, and then the Inquisition pulls you out of your jail cell and says, hey, we're in the middle. It gives you like an exposition dump. This is like a weird sky world where people live on these floating islands that also have like mushrooms and ghosts and crazy magic stuff going on. And they're like, cool. They had recently won the war. They had fought the God War, literally like a union of the Inquisition and other people like killed gods, and we're like, we're not going to let the gods determine our fates. We are going to determine it ourselves. But now everyone's in kind of a state of flux. There are a bunch of factions that now that the gods have died, there's obviously a power vacuum, and you are being sent after Vera Calliope or Calliope or something like that, I think her name is. You're sent after this woman who has defected, a former general who has now taken over a castle and swears that she is going to build a new heaven, and you're just let loose into this world. And it is dreamlike at times. It is strange. It is weird in the ways that I like about Morrowind. I think the world itself is really fascinating. I had to turn off, there's like a lot of artificial wobble and stuff on the 3D. I turned all of that off because it was making me motion sick. So letting you know that those options are there. But I think if you want something that's going to give you Morrowind vibes, this is that. It's that kind of game. I do think the combat is not great. And so it really does encourage you to just power through, because the stealth is also not that great either. I think the actual like doing things in the world is a little bit not quite so fine-tuned. It probably gets a little bit more interesting once you have more tools and spells and things like that. But I find the world itself and the ideas they're coming up with really, really fascinating. So I'm probably going to try and get through more of it and get more of an idea. I'm at the part now where you can kind of go to different faction strongholds to kind of chase after some leads. So there's like one place where the Undying live, and they're all a bunch of immortal people who hate being immortal, and they just want to die, but they're not allowed to die. They're like the pirates from Pirates of the Caribbean. And another area is like the Clockwork Kingdom, where they like worship at the altar of technology and steamwork and stuff like that. You have actual boats called airships that like fly around and stuff. And I've seen a teaser trailer where someone built a like steampunk Alexander that is an actual dungeon that you go inside. And I'm like, ooh, I want to get there. I want to play that stuff. That sounds so cool. So I like that. I think it's interesting. It's definitely smaller budget, smaller scale. You can tell, but I think the ideas at play are interesting enough that I want to at least like mess around a little bit more in it. The one that I really want to spend more time with is 1000 Times Resist.
Yeah, I want to try that now.
This is a heavily, Nier inspired, I think aesthetically, story where you are playing this character in the far future called the Watcher. And I won't spoil kind of the cold open, because I think it's supposed to set up a lot of mysteries that you're supposed to unravel as it goes on. So I'll just kind of skip ahead to like the body of the story once you get into it. There is a very like mysterious cold open, like all this stuff happens. What could be going on? But eventually you are the Watcher, and you are kind of reliving the memories of the All-Mother. And as you kind of play through the stuff, you quickly figure out that something has happened to humanity. Something has gone wrong. And as the Watcher, you're kind of in this like... Have you all read The Giver?
No, I haven't. Who's that by?
I forgot the author all of a sudden. It was a book that I feel like a lot of students in the U.S.
familiar.
have to read.
It sounds like
it's where like... Yeah, they all live in like a utopia, but like one person has to hold all the memories of the old world, so they keep the knowledge. And so the Giver is the one who like passes them on. And so like... this kid is going to become the new Giver, and he has to like take in all these memories of like hurt and pain and sorrow, but also like joy and stuff like that. And it becomes kind of a thing about like, okay, what is important to keep in humanity and all that. And I feel like that's where 1000 Times Resist is going. Lewis Lowry, Lois Lowry or Lewis Lowry. The Giver is an integral part of U.S. high school canon. Yeah, I read it in middle school, but definitely like it's part of
Ours is definitely Handmaid's Tale. So yeah.
But that's kind of what A Thousand Times Resist is, where you're living through the life of the All Mother to prepare to eventually go to her side and fight in some war that is happening. You're with a lot of other characters that are all kind of obviously clones or modeled after this one character, and you are reliving her life. And when you go back into her life, there's high school drama, there's I don't know, queer angst. There's like a lot of like really good story bits to latch onto. There's a lot of stuff about specifically being part of the Asian community in a place where that might not always be like easy to conform to what is seen as standard. There's a lot of interesting stuff in the first chapter about like even just language barriers and things like that I found really, really compelling. I do find that there's like some weird pacing stuff I've had where like it's one of those games where you don't auto advance text, you have to hit A to advance text, and I feel like some of the story scenes feel a little bit oddly paced because of that. But all that being said, it's also visually striking. Like just immediately, it reminds me of Necro Barista. If you remember that indie from a few years ago that I think myself and Hirin and a few others at USG were really into. It's just very visually striking. And it's got some real heart at the bottom of it. So I want to spend more time with that because a lot of people are just raving about it. People whose opinions I think are very good opinions. I would highly recommend it to anybody who wants an interesting story-driven game. It's not an RPG. You kind of do some light like timeline manipulation to flip through, but it's mostly one of those walk-around control stick adventure games where you're talking to people and manipulating things to advance the narrative. But it's a really good one of those. So I would keep an eye on that if you like that stuff.
I will.
That's it for the Tavern. Nadia, take us home.
I recently asked on Discord, and this is true for anyone who wants to reach out and get a hold of me. It's like I have a lot of stories, but I tend to get mixed up a lot, and I don't have a great memory. So if you have something specific you want me to talk about on the Nostalgia Nook, by all means, just reach out anywhere. I'm pretty receptive. I did get a request, though, and that is Nadia, talk about your first pet. And I think I wrote, oh boy, in response, or who boy, or something like that. Because I think I have talked about my first pet. She was a cat. Her name was Boz, which means fucking Hungarian. Eventually we got Meg, which means off. So we had two cats named Fuck Off, and that was really fun to explain to my Hungarian grandmother.
Your family has a very specific sense of humor, Nadia.
I told you about how we played Cards Against Humanity, and you'd think I tell you pit stories. No, you don't understand how bad it got. But yeah, my family, I think there's like a chaos gene that runs through it. But anyway, yeah, so I had a cat, and I kind of hate to say this, but like I wasn't nice to her as I should have been. I think because as a little girl, I loved dogs. Like I had my grandparents had 2 German Shepherds who would kill anyone who looked at them, and apparently I just bossed them around like a maiden with wolves, and they would follow me everywhere and etc. But with a cat, I don't think I like the fact that they wouldn't do what I said. And that's why I love cats today, because they're so independent. They don't give a fuck. They don't give a shit. They domesticated themselves, and they got so fascinating. But anyway, Boz was, I eventually made peace with her. But when I was a little girl, and I think I told this story during a pre-show, so here's a freebie for all you, I suppose, is when I was about 3 or 4, apparently, my grandmother took me to go see Santa, like a good Jewish girl that I am. And I was all dressed up in this really nice red dress, and I actually have a picture of myself in that dress. It is a very cute dress, and I looked very innocent and sweet and adorable. And apparently the helper elf came up to my grandmother and said, "Oh, what a beautiful little girl, look how beautiful she is." And my grandmother says, "Would you believe she bit the cat this morning?" And the elf woman is just like, "No." Yeah, I bit the cat. I had a habit of biting things and people and objects until my mother bit me and I stopped. But yeah, that was Boz. R.I.P. She lived to be 21. Like I said, we did make our peace. She was an okay cat. She was cool. And now I am very nice to cats. All cats. I love cats. I have 2. I've had many in the past. They're great animals. So one of my favorites. so I'm not mean to cats anymore. Your mother bit you. Yes, my mother bit me. It stopped me. I can't falter. The 80s were a weird time. The
80s were weird
wild.
times. Small
A lot
children
of
were
people were on
biting cats.
speed.
People were on speed and cocaine. All these things are happening. My first ever pet was a cat named Pork Chop, who was this tiny little thing who insisted on being outside and demanded to be outside, broke through the screen to get out, was very smart. Great hunter. Cleared up our problem with gophers and rabbits in the garden really quickly.
Wow.
She lived to be 18. By the end, she was like this tiny little granny cat. So yeah, very sweet.
Was she a tortie? I love torties, and they all act like that.
She was a tabby.
Aw.
Yeah, a
I'd love to
tabby
get another
cat.
tortie.
Yeah, she was noisy too. Like to sit up. Yeah, no, that's exactly what she was like. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, feral cats I find have a really specific kind of creak. Like Toothless, who is my cat, black cat now. She was found on the street. We adopted her at a year old, and she didn't like meow when we first got her. But now when she sees me, she's like, ah. That's the best she can do.
Eric, what was your first ever pet?
It was a cat, male cat named Daisy, because my dad, I can't remember if they adopted or rescued Daisy, but my dad just didn't see anything downstairs, so it was like, oh,
It happens. You'd be surprised.
Must be a female cat. We'll just call it Daisy. And then later we found out it was just a neutered male cat, but we love the name Daisy, so male cat named Daisy has been a thing in our family ever since. I almost named Poe here Daisy. That was a name that was in the pool for a while. I love Daisy. Daisy gave really good kitty hugs, which Poe does not. Daisy would I would pick him up and he would literally latch onto my neck, one paw on each side and hug me.
Dante did that.
Yeah, you don't want to do that, Poe, do you? Poe just likes being a baby. So I did love Daisy a lot. End of life was a little bit tougher because Daisy became a diabetic cat. And I was the one who usually had to give Daisy his insulin shots, so we had a strained relationship. I was like 11 years old, learning how a needle works, so I could give a cat shots. But by that point, we also had one dog, Bessie, and then we later got two more dogs, which I think now both of them are gone. I want to say, yeah, I think my parents are now onto their newer dogs. We were a dog family. My mom prefers dogs. She always wanted dogs that would like her, and they always ended up liking the boys in the family more. Yeah, a lot of the dogs, like Bessie was my dog. Me and Bessie were besties. Annabelle was my brother's dog, so I think she's just happy to have dogs that like her most now. But yeah,
Growing up, I always had German Shepherds.
Cat was the first pet, and I do enjoy cats. Even though I do love dogs, but there's something about cats that I just vibe with.
I agree.
So
I've always wanted a dog, but dogs are very needy.
They're very, very needy, yeah.
And they need a lot of taking care of.
Kind of neurotic.
A little bit. You have to take them out a lot. You have to clean up after them. It's harder to travel. They really get panicky and scared when you go away.
Yeah.
And I travel a lot, so that's a little challenging for me. But yeah, longtime listeners of Axe of the Blood God will remember Hamish, who we got in 2016, and used to come into the office meowing loudly or scratch at the door to be let in, and would purr loudly into the microphone.
You can hear that in the old episode.
Yep, you can hear that in the old episodes. We lost Hamish in 2020. Rest in peace, but he lives on in our heart. So
he does.
And that's it for this week's episode of Axe of the Blood God. Thanks so much for joining us, as always, and thank you so much for your generous support. We stream every Saturday morning at around 9:15 a.m. Pacific, and we talk about the news of the day and RPGs and everything else. So if you enjoy the show, please like and subscribe to our Twitch channel. Join us on Patreon at patreon.com/bloodgodpod. And hey, we have if you really, really enjoy the show, we have a pre-show and a post-show over on the Discord for our Stars of Destiny. And as always, we have a pretty good crowd here. This week we're joined by Anthrax Bees, Azixa, Drew RWX, Flashback 2012, Harvest Lunatic, Laguna Matata 124, Lord Bob Bree, Fequinox, Spooky Man, BR, Spyrus, Teeps, our Intrepid Mod, and Victus. Thank you so much for your generous support. We're heading into the post-show now, Blood God After Dark, over on the Discord. So come on over and join us. In the meantime, I've been your host, Kat Bailey. We'll be back next week to talk more about the genre we love. But until then, for Nadia, Eric, myself, thanks for listening, and happy adventuring.